Hello, and welcome to Wilaker, the Journeyers podcast. I'm Will Abels, and this is my story.
Left home, gone coast to coast in a hybrid car with a bag of clothes. Back on the wagon, back on the road. Would you have my back when I'm all alone? On a wing and a prayer, all out of favors. Hope to get $1 and a smile out of stranger. As the story is told and the plot unfolds, we laugh not to cry, but it's not a joke. No, it's not a joke. It's not a joke.
Welcome back to Wilaker. It's the slow push to the triumphant finale. This is chapter 17, and I'm going to make it 20 chapters. One's kind of like I think it has like an asterisk to it, but it's going to be 20 chapters, which means after this episode, we're down to the final 3 episodes. Exciting stuff. I also wonder if there's some internal clock happening, like the whole body keeps a score, that kind of thing, where there's some weeks where I just cannot, one, just time-wise, I just don't have the time to sit down and record and edit and blah, blah, blah. But other times, my brain is like, we're not doing this right now. And I wonder if there's just some internal clock that is pushing this to make sure some of the timelines add up. I finally got to talk about Denver and that part of it while I was the week that I was in Denver a year prior. I didn't have the time to do anything last week. The holidays just running around. But now, because I've pushed this, I'm currently on my family vacation. We do a family vacation every year around my mom's birthday, which is tomorrow, which is Thursday. And because I've kind of delayed it, chapter 17 and chapter 18 fall on this timeline of, the 2 weeks leading up to the family vacation last year. And chapter 18 will actually be about the family vacation last year. So I'm just like, I wonder if you just kind of push this in your own way. Because basically where we're at in the story, we're at the end of the Experience Files tour, or at least like the bulk of it. I mean, that was sort of, the back half of 2025, I was still on the road. I was doing all this, but it was part of the Experience Files tour, but it wasn't as structured and it didn't have the same purpose. So I was more so just doing the road. I saw someone complain about this on Threads. They were like, if you're just doing a string of cities, that's doing the road, not a tour. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, what do you... my thread, I don't know if you're on Threads or if you're on Twitter. I almost want to get back on Twitter at this point, because it's like, well, what are the two evils? Do we bend the knee to Daddy Elon or bend the knee to Daddy Zuckerberg? But my Threads is intolerable. I don't get any actual information on it. It's just comics bitching about comedy, and it is so bad for my mental health. And so you just see someone say something stupid that you're like, what? Who's that even? What? Matt West is a comedian in Nashville, and I saw him comment on someone was ranting on Facebook about the Zanies open mic, and they weren't wrong to have a rant there. But some things you don't want to rant publicly, because that is a crew of people that will make you feel like shit before you even get a chance to show them that you are shit. And anyway, this kid ranted about the Zanies open mic, and Matt West commented, this could have been a journal entry. And that is, I think that line almost every single day when I get frustrated about something, or I want to put something online, or whatever it is. And I hope Matt West puts out a book on philosophy, because he's a chef, he's a comedian, he's a multi-talented individual, and now he's living on a farm. Last I checked, he's hanging out with some goats. I mean, just living the life. But I would love a book by Matt, if you're listening. Anyway, so right now I'm in Burlington, Vermont. I'm just north of Burlington. I'm in South Hero Island. I'm sitting on a dock. I'm overlooking Lake Champlain. I have no complaints. I've been up since 6:30. Decided to get the podcast recorded early. We're going to go up to Montreal today. Just do a little family trip up there since we're this far up. and I've just been sitting here. I got into film photography in the last couple days. Just when he thought he couldn't get more insufferable, he decides he's going to start doing photography with film. But I got up early, took some pictures of the lake, and then I said, you know what, let's get an episode in. You know, let's try and get back with some consistency. And we're coming up to the end of this thing, and I think I'm dragging my feet because I don't want it to end, because I actually do enjoy doing it. But all things come to an end. So picking up where we left off before I went on that tangent, Chapter 17, I'm finishing up the Experience Files tour. So I just went to Breckenridge. I saw Andy Lytle, had a wonderful 24 hours with him, 36 hours or so. I've made my way back to Denver. I sat at a bar my final night just to sit at a bar and talk to some kind of Trumper lunatic, and I realized I was sort of in like a cop brewery or something. But again, sometimes it's good to get other perspectives, and because sometimes you're looking at the internet and you're going, who could possibly believe in all this? And then you meet someone and you go, oh, okay, well, they seem relatively normal, so maybe there's something I'm missing here. And then I went back. We had to get up at 6 a.m. Because JD and Jen had to get out. They had to go on a trip. Jen's parents were coming in to take care of their son. Like, I should have not been there. They really did me a favor by letting me stay one more day. But, you know, I thought, because originally I was like, oh, I'll just drive to Kansas City from Breckenridge. That added an extra 2 hours. Kansas City's already far from Breckenridge, or from Denver at least. And I was just making my life. I had a bug on me. Way more difficult. So they did me a favor by letting me come in. And then I have to haul ass to Kansas City. This is my final night of shows. This is the final headlining show. Where my finances are that I need to just make any type of money on this show to get home. I just need gas money to get back to Nashville, and that's it. And a couple things have happened, if you've forgotten. My Instagram has been hacked. I have no Instagram. I have no way to promote the show. I am incognito, you know, like I'm just living in a world without Instagram, essentially. I have my backup account, but, you know, I'm doing my best to try and maintain some kind of following. I got 300 followers. I went down from 8,000 to 300. So I went down from barely anything to absolutely nothing. And the other thing is I'm trying to get a hold of the producer for the Kansas City show, and they went from like extremely responsive, promoting all this stuff, to just non-existent. And I'm like, which is a theme with some of the producers I worked with on this trip. And as we know, if you've been following along, every time it was something insane that, you know, I mean, like in Bend at Craft Kitchen, she had open heart surgery and she still had still tried to make the show happen, you know, which is so wild to me. I mean, I'm so appreciative that they didn't just cancel the show. But so I'm getting silence in Kansas City, and I'm like, all right, what's happening here? So hauling ass, trying to make my way to Kansas City. Driving to Denver is fun because the back half is nice. Driving to Kansas City sucks. And I have nowhere to stay. So I'm like, you know, I was a little lazy about finding housing for my last, and also I just was like, at this point, it's the final day. The next day I'm going to be in Nashville. I'm just like, whatever. One more night in a rest stop. Who gives a shit, right? So I get all the way to Kansas City. I get to Rino, which is where my show was. I've done shows there before. I've had fun. It was one of my final shows before COVID hit, and we were still in the phase of making fun of it. I think about a week later, I'd be, you know, back in 2020, I was doing this big tour to try and see if I wanted to move. And I had Denver, got to check out Dan Soder at Denver Comedy Works, 300 people packed. We're 2 weeks away from shutdown. We're laughing. We're like, this COVID thing, this is great. Because at that time, we had dealt with other epidemics or potential epidemics, but we had, you know, there's these things in place to make sure it didn't spread throughout the entire world. Granted, some things you just can't control. I think COVID ended up being one of them. But we've genuinely just thought it was going to be one of these, like, oh, it's like, you know, pig flu or whatever, swine flu or whatever. So now I'm back at Rino. It's where I met Joe Nunek and a couple other Kansas City dudes who are now in New York doing very, very well. So it's a cool spot. I like it. I've always enjoyed my shows there. I get there is not a soul in sight. And I was like, this is on brand for Will Abel's headlining shows on the road. And I don't want to brag. Things have gotten better since this tour, and Nobody Likes Will Abel's tour that I've been on since the start of the year. Tickets are better than that. It's all about reframing. And when the bar is at 0, it's easy to go up. So, there's just no tickets sold. And, and that's because my Instagram, I couldn't promote anything. No one's promoting. Like, it's crazy, right? And I was like, oh, maybe something's happening in Kansas City today. Maybe I'm just not able to do the show. Nope, there was nothing else happening. So the producer shows up, and they immediately apologize because they had been in prison on Sunday. It was one of those, like, if I remember correctly, it was like one of those parking tickets that are like just some kind of bill that you spend 24 hours in prison for because you've just delayed paying it. I don't know. It wasn't like a violent crime. Otherwise, I don't think I'd be talking about it so casually. But something like that, and they just were like, I'm sorry, I was in prison on Sunday, so I just haven't had a chance to really promote the show. And I was like, that's okay. And, between that and my Instagram not being around. So the other comics in the show, one of them runs the open mic in Kansas City, at Kansas City Comedy Club. That's a club I've always wanted to do. And doing an open mic at a club normally is pretty fun because when it's established, when it's done right, it's just like doing a show. It's a good way to meet other comics. And I've always wanted to do Kansas City Comedy Club. So they were like, yeah, if you come by the mic, I'll slot you in. I'll give you 4 minutes. And you're like, fine, that's something. And then there was another show down the street. And I am going to have to relook up the names of everyone that helped me out here. But there was another show down the street that they shot out a text message, and they were like, yeah, we'll make room for him. I mean, there's the benefit of like, oh, this guy was supposed to be headlining this show in town. Oh, if like this producer trusts this guy enough to headline, he's probably good enough to do my show, and let's give him some time. So I ended up getting on a show, had a good audience, did 12 minutes. Great. It went fantastic. And I should have stopped there because, when you have a great show, you always want to go do another set. And then that next set always is kind of like, not always a stinker, but it is always like, we should have just stopped when I stopped. And that's sort of what happened that night. I had this great show, felt good. I was like, what a great way to end it. Now let's go to Kansas City Comedy Club. And I go there. I don't know which comic I followed. This guy was murdering. And when you murder on a mic, like you're like, oh, I'm going to have to just eat a dick after this. This guy's just murdering. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to be doing a Charlie Kirk joke, so we'll see how that goes. And actually, I wouldn't have been doing a Charlie Kirk joke at that time. He was still alive. But you know what I mean? I'm just trying to follow this guy and get up, and I do very okay. Like, I just do okay. I do 5 minutes. They gave me 5. And yeah, that's the end of it. But I had a moment where I walked into the lobby and I looked around Kansas City Comedy Club and I thought, all right, this is a place you've always wanted to do. This is a high note because whether the set went great or bad, people once again kind of gathered around me and they made the best of the situation. I made the best of the situation. And I know that was something that a couple years prior would have devastated me. But at this point, I'm not even getting jaded. I'm just getting thicker skin, and I'm just aware that these things can happen. And now, when I'm on the road and I'm not meeting up to expectations in terms of what I want the show to be, it doesn't bother me because I'm at a point where I'm learning what my ticket sales are, what my draw is. I'm learning a whole new side of comedy being out here on the road. I'm headlining clubs now as one-nighters. And just getting my name out there. And, that was a start. Last year was a start that was also, the year prior was a start. Every year feels like it's a new start because I'm entering a new phase of comedy every single time. And so I don't have any complaints about it. I had a great time in Kansas City. It was interesting. It was an interesting final night. And if you remember, it didn't rain the entire trip, which for that region of the country is kind of insane. I got no rain in Bozeman. I had no rain in Seattle. I had no rain in Portland, no rain in Bend, no rain in Boise. It did not rain once. So as I was driving into Kansas City, I remembered seeing a truck stop. So I went about 40 minutes back the other way which is kind of stupid, but I don't know. It just made it easier than trying to find a new rest stop because I was also tired. I had a couple of drinks. I wasn't like getting after it, but I did have a couple drinks. And I go and I find this rest stop. And it was just like a straight up trucker stop. And I was like, I'm really not supposed to park here, but I am so tired and I'm going to have to drive to fucking Nashville tomorrow. And so I get my bed. My bed was already set up and I lay down and it doesn't just start raining. It starts hailing, and it is hailing golf ball size hail. The craziest storm is just whipping through Kansas City. And I was like, what an omen. You know, what an omen to wrap up the Experience Files tour. I was really regretting, like, not regretting, I was, like, not terrified either. I just had no desire to go back to Nashville, go back to that comedy scene, go back to a city that just was not treating me well. And after being on the road, having this, you know, the highs and lows, you know, the highs were very high, the lows were extremely low, but overall it was something that I can look back on now as one of the most important months of my life, important 2 months of my life. And just the hail, and I was like, this is not a good sign. But eventually it stops. I go to sleep. I get up the next day, I see a trucker kind of eyeballing my car because I think he was just like, what the fuck's this Subaru doing in here? And he's like checking underneath his truck for stowaways or probably raccoons. I don't really know. And I start making my trip back to Nashville. And, you know, it's already like an 8 to 10 hour drive. It took so fucking long to get back. Like, just one of those where I just like couldn't get motivated. I didn't want to do the trip. I'm just, you know, stopping and starting. I remember talking to my sister, and I just remember like looking at the clock, and it like I think I hit traffic at some point, and I was like, I feel like I've been in the car for like 10 hours already, and it still said I had 6 hours to go, and I was just like, God damn it, this fucking sucks. So I'm just trudging my way to Nashville, begrudgingly, something like that. I'm gonna be. I should just start saying words wrong so I can be a cast member on Love Island. Begrudgingly. I begrudgingly tried to get my way back to Nashville. And I finally get there, and I thought because I had taken that break leading into Denver, like I was drinking a bit too much by the end of Denver. You know, there was a couple situations that led to that. Like, you know, Andy and I were having a good time out in Breckenridge, and we were just partying for a day. And that kind of drinking feels different than the kind of drinking I do that made me quit, where it was just like I'm just alone drinking by myself, just seeing how much liquor and beer I can put into my system. There's that. And then there's just I'm with somebody and I'm having a good time, you know. Denver was more on the other side of that, where it was like I was with people and just having a good time. And so my drinking in my brain, I'm kind of like in that sort of getting back to that mentality of like, maybe I kind of have control of this, or maybe I could have control of this if I put some effort in. But Nashville, just because of, I guess, it's just the things I've already been through since I've been there, and also just because I tried to get sober there, and it's the summer, you know, I get back, it's like, I think it's June 30th, and I don't know, I get back, and it's a very different Nashville from when I left, because, you know, my favorite bar, my little oasis, Jane's Hideaway, is closing. And that's basically the first thing that happens when I get back. So I get back, I know I only have a few days left this bar being open. They're doing their full closing that weekend. I think I got back on a Thursday. I did. Yeah, I got back on Thursday. They close that Sunday, right? So I get back and kind of get it takes me a couple days to even unpack the car because I'm just so exhausted. I'm not happy about being home. It feels weird. You work so hard to make this thing happen. It doesn't go the way I want by any means, but it also couldn't have gone better if I had planned it. And I skip. What do I do? So on Friday I go to Jane's. Yeah. So I go into Jane's, and it's just, you know, I just been with Mac. He's bummed about not being able to make it that weekend because I think his sister's getting married or his sister's doing something, engagement party, something like that. But go to Jane's, and it was just such a magical night. People were getting up and playing in between. John, the owner's fiance, I think now wife, Kat. Like, her mom was there, ended up chatting with her for a while. Will say this, babe. Ugh, love a hot mom. And just so interesting. And really, I mean, I think I speak for anyone that's ever met Kat's mom, and just a delight. But talk to her, and I'm sitting at the bar, and it's not sad, it's nice. It's, it was nice to see all these other people. I think Sierra Farrell was there. I couldn't tell. There was some woman sitting there with chainmail over her face, and someone said that was Sierra Farrell, and I was like, I'm not going to question that. That sounds right to me. I'm sitting among bluegrass, Americana, country royalty. Why not wear chainmail over your face? Do whatever you want. Live your life. Go be a queen. But it was nice, and everyone's getting up, playing bluegrass, and it wasn't quite sad yet. It was like a nice little evening. It was what I always kind of came to know at Jane's, where I'm having a bad day, I could go and I could sit there, I could talk to the bartenders, I could hang out, get a decent meal, I could just enjoy the music. And that's what that was that night. And that was I should have not gone back, because it was such a beautiful night. And the way that night actually ended, because one thing I started thinking about a lot towards the end of this trip, the Experience Files tour, was ending chapters, the end of chapter, ending of a chapter and the start of a new chapter. And even though I hadn't quite figured out what to do about my drinking yet, it did feel like I was closing some dark chapter in my life. And I don't know, it wouldn't quite be over. And I do feel like that chapter is over, but I could kind of feel the final pages being written of that chapter. And one thing that happened that I thought was so weird was one of the first jobs I had in Nashville was I worked at a flower shop. And one of my first days there, I worked with this woman, and we had to do this kind of ridiculous task that was supposed to take an hour, ended up taking 3 days. We had to put together these big wooden structures that had chicken wire running through them, and they would run flowers through them, and they were kind of like these not awnings, but just some kind of like a structure. I don't know, not a pergola, but you stand underneath them and you get married, and they lined them with flowers. And we had to basically strip all of them with the chicken wire, put on some tarp, and then put the chicken wire back on and staple the whole thing together. It took days. And I worked with this woman, and she had some discrepancy about her paycheck, and she probably, I don't know anything about it, but I know she never came back. And I'll say there were some discrepancies with my paychecks from time to time, but I don't know. I'm so stupid about that stuff, I never looked into it. Anyway, I haven't seen her since. So I'm sitting at the bar. We're about to wrap the night up, and I turn, and we just kind of put it together, and I was like, hey, did you want a photo? And she's like, oh, my God. And so getting to see her, we kind of hashed out a couple of things, and it just felt like the closing of a chapter, because it was a bookend, right? That was one of the first things that happened when I was in Nashville, and now I have Jane's closing. And things ended sour with the flower shop that I worked at. But again, that was a place that I made a bunch of really good friends. So I don't know. It's just little things just sort of were popping up, and it felt like the end of that. So then I go home. Saturday, I didn't go to the next night. I should have, but I didn't. And then I went back to Jane's on Sunday, and I don't regret it, but the love and energy that was in the room on Friday, Sunday was like just a friends and family. So it was a little more, smaller group, but a lot of faces I recognized, a lot of regulars I recognized, a lot of people from around town that I recognized. And people were, the band Greenwood Rye was playing, and then they stopped, and I kind of thought people would keep popping up, because that's what was sort of happening on Friday night, was the band was playing, and then other people would jump up and join them, or they would do their own thing, and it was really fun, kind of free-for-all, little music round. But then Sunday, the band stopped playing, and then you had to start ripping things off the wall, and they were trying to sell things, and they were trying to salvage what they could, and things were just getting taken off the wall, handed away, bartenders are crying, and it was devastating. I mean, it was sad. At some point I had to look up, and I just went, I'm going to start crying. I have to get out of here. And Paige, one of the bartenders and a friend, she gave me one of the plants. So that's what I got from Jane's, was a plant. My friend Kara has it, and she's taking care of it because I am notorious for killing plants. So my friend Kara has it, and hopefully I'm going to get it back one day, and it's going to be a nice big plant, and someone else will take care of it. But yeah, I just remember I was walking home, and I just started bawling because it was just so sad, and it was also this weird kind of omen with my experience with Nashville is I do think it is a town that has completely lost its identity, and not that there aren't people there trying to maintain it or trying to preserve it, but it's just when there is that much money, and it's a nice little, I mean, it's a good metaphor for America and arts right now in general of just when there's that much money going out of their way to try and destroy, it can't be stopped. And Nashville kind of feels like that right now, where there's just too much money coming in, and it's people that for some reason just don't seem to like what's happening around them, but they just don't seem to like music or art or whatever, and they're just watering it down to a point, and they're putting some of these musicians on a platform that really don't deserve it, and there's no, there's no hole in the wall bars, there's no spots to pop into. I mean, there's like Dee's Country Cocktail Lounge and things like that. I mean, but even like Skinny Dennis, like I love that place, but it's, it's just a influencer haven. And I don't know, that's what Nashville's kind of becoming. It's like the spots that are like, oh, there's still this place to go to. It's just, so you can just get your picture for Instagram, so you can just make sure that you take 30 photos and you make the right face, and thank God you're not blinking in that one. And I don't know, that's just what it kind of feels like now. And I know that there's spots that I'm missing and spots that I can go check out and hang out at. And people that have the same mentality that I have would probably be there. And don't get me wrong, I have plenty of great friends and there's plenty of great artists that are around me and everything. But Jane's ending, I feel like I should have left Nashville not long after that. But the way things were moving for me, I felt like I needed to stay. And I'm sort of, I don't even know. I'm sitting on this lake and two herons just flew over me, and I feel like I'm losing the plot for a second. I'm more just, this could have been a journal entry, But yeah, so now I'm back in Nashville. My little oasis, my little home away from home. Jane's Hideaway is now gone. The Experience Files tour are behind me, and I'm kind of just back to being a ship on the water with no destination, and it's July, and it's a great drinking month. So that'll be the next chapter. All right, this has been Wilaker. Sorry if I made you sad. Sorry if I made you bored. Sorry if I made you uninterested. But you know what? You could have turned it off at any point. You probably did. Some of you probably did. Some of you are probably like, what is he talking about right now? But honestly, sometimes I like to sit outside in nature. I mean, you've listened to this thing. I do that a lot. This one was like distracting and reflective and beautiful and haunting and all the good things. But this has been Wilaker, Chapter 17. Few more left. We're down to the final 3 chapters. All right, take it away, Kenny.
Left home, gone coast to coast in a hybrid car with a bag of clothes. Back on the wagon, back on the road. Would you have my back when I'm all alone? On a wing and a prayer, all out of favors. Hope to get $1 and a smile out of stranger. As the story is told and the plot unfolds, we laugh not to cry, but it's not a joke. No, it's not a joke.